The latest edition of Betting Weekly Fast Break. It is a Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. We are a brand new show here on the Bet Rivers Network, part of the Betting Weekly umbrella that is so awesome and has brought to you great content over the years. And this is just the latest edition. I am Doug Kezirian alongside Albert Nguyen, also known as Analytics Capper, and he is in Dallas, the site of last night's beneficiary of a long shot cashing in the NBA draft lottery.
I mean, you just got to give Nico Harrison the GM of the Year award, right? Let's just give it to him right now. I think he's going to end up drafting Cooper Flag, which is amazing. Transcendent
Maybe,
star.
maybe he will.
But the other way, yeah, the other scenario is he would package that pick. It would break a lot of hearts, obviously, in Dallas, but hopefully get another superstar in return. It's just this number winning the lottery has definitely opened up a can of options for Dallas. And I could already tell the city's already a lot more excited. The Stars are winning in the playoffs, and now basketball is kind of back in front of their minds. First time ever, right? The WNBA team got the first pick, and the NBA team also got the first pick in the same city.
Yeah, I mean, I was joking when I said maybe because I was thinking he could screw it up, right, and not take Flag, take like Ace Bailey or something like that. But you're right. The Giannis trade rumors are certainly swirling and things along those lines. And I love me some conspiracy theories. I get it. I understand. But there are literally people behind the scenes there. It would be a federal crime. There's also video of it all happening. It's just logistically doesn't make sense to do it live because of all the math permutations of the ping pong balls. But nonetheless, and it's only fitting, Albert, right? This entire postseason, when you factor in win probability and what the and Pacers did the other day, what the Pacers did to the Bucks, what the Knicks did to the Celtics in games 1 and 2, we've seen the 1.7% come in routinely over the last 10 days. So why wouldn't it in the draft lottery? But the other big storyline from last night is what's going on with the defending champs now down 3 games to 1. Knicks handle game 4, come all the way back from another double-digit deficit. The Celtics cover another first half, but then on top of that, Jason Tatum out with what looks to be a serious, serious injury. So the Knicks now have a series price of minus 670. Boston's favored in game 5, would be in game 7, maybe even game 6, even without Tatum. What's your sort of initial reaction to what we've seen with this Boston team now without Tatum, has been without Hauser, and then Porzingis obviously not up to full strength?
Honestly, the more that I watch these two teams play, Doug, it's not even about the Boston Celtics, right? But at the point of Jason Tatum's injury last night, they were already down 9. They were letting the game slip away. They had digit leads basically in every single game. But this is more of, let's give the New York Knicks the credit, right? They are an excellent fourth quarter team. They really ramp up their defense, play a lot more physical, knowing that the refs are going to allow more physicality. And then Jalen Brunson, I mean, we've talked this every show, but he is the most clutch player in the NBA. He won it this year, this award for a reason, and he continues to show out at every fourth quarter. So I mean, I give the Knicks more credit than I blame Boston at this point because I think we talked about Boston's ceiling being just so much higher than everybody. They're the defending champs, 3-point variance, so much talent, arguably the best starting five in the NBA. But I don't think we took a second and step back and give the New York Knicks credit. That's what I want to do today. I want to give them their flowers.
I agree. I think they're a really good team. I don't think they were the better team in this series. I thought the Celtics were in blue 20-point leads in the second half because they got reckless and ISO ball. But with that being said, it doesn't mean New York's a bad team. I like what New York, I mean, what they do with their top 4 players. I love what Hart does. OG's been great. And to your point, Brunson's the best player in this series and the new Mr. Clutch, if you will. So that's a great point. Give the Knicks credit that showing just a resilience when they were down and could have mailed it in, especially game 1 when you have the rest of the series. Okay, we're fine. We can get them back next time. We only need a split in Boston. For them to come back and execute and Bridges to flip the switch in the fourth quarter has been fantastic. So, and look, they got hit with injuries last year. Injuries are part of this, and the Knicks and their fan base aren't going to shed any tears. They've been on the wrong end of the injury bug, so to speak, plenty of times, including last season. So, no sympathy there, but Knicks still have to finish it off. They need one more win in the closeout win is difficult. We'll talk about that game moving forward later in the week. But Knicks are 670 on the money line now. A huge swing in the series price. Celtics plus 470 on the comeback. We have two games tonight. Pivotal game 5, as they like to say when a series is tied 2-2. I want to start with the second game because I just think it's so fascinating with the top seed, the top overall seed in OKC, facing a team that has championship pedigree, the MVP face-off with the Thunder and Nuggets. OKC, season on the line, Albert. They were underdogs on Sunday in the fourth quarter in-game line,
Wow.
and looking at a 3-1 deficit like we just talked about Boston, and they came back, took care of business, and now the series shifts back to OKC where they regained home court, and I think this number's a little too high. I have a play on the total, but I'm curious as to how you see this game playing out.
I also think the number's too high. I mean, I think we're undervaluing how Denver is, especially how they close games. I think one of the things that you brought up, with OKC closing Game 4 out, that's actually after games 3 and 2 where they didn't do really well closing the games, right? I think game 3 is when it was a 50-50 shot as well, and you saw Shea Gilgeous-Alexander kind of playing for the fouls there, missing some bunnies as well. And I think he came back in Game 4 and really kind of just exercised those demons. But I think OKC is going to win tonight. I just don't know if they're able to beat them by 10 points just because of all this. You mentioned all this veteran championship pedigree for the Denver Nuggets. The one thing that I have no official play. I'm gonna love what you talk about in terms of the total. I have a little challenge there, but I do like Isaiah Hartenstein. I think he's going to play a lot of minutes tonight, not only being the primary defender for Jokic, but also the help defender. And we know on the short roll on offense, he's a really good passer as well. So I'm looking at over 12 and a half rebounds and assists for Hartenstein.
Can certainly get behind that. I think Holmgren's worthless to guard Jokic. So they've been playing Jalen Williams as sort of the backup, and the Jalen Williams from Arkansas, not the one who starts and is an all-star caliber player. But Hartenstein's been solid in that regards. He can do as good of a job as he can. But to your point, I like the assists. He had 3 in the last game, 4 in the previous game, 5 in game 2. And he's at 8, 10, and 14 rebounds. So he's right there. So I think that's a really smart angle. And if Jokic continues to shoot with the way he's shooting, there's going to be a lot of rebounds around the rim if Jokic is missing bunnies. Now, let's get into that total. And I'm always a little uneasy when I see the over-under move against me because you have to respect sharp money, but I just don't understand it. I really, really don't. I'm on under 221.5, and it's my favorite play in a while in the NBA postseason. I'm going to go full unit. Usually on the show, I do a half unit, but it's a full unit for me. And I just want to break it down. So the Denver, because they went 7 games with the Clippers, tonight will be their 8th game in 13 days, I believe it is. So they've basically been playing every other night. And that started with like game 5 or 6 against the Clippers. And they're not a very deep team. They play one, sometimes 2 guys with double-digit minutes off the bench. It's Westbrook and then maybe one other guy. Otherwise, it's like 7 minutes here and there. And DeAndre Jordan's not playing much anymore. Nuggets learned the hard way that that's a foolish approach against OKC. So, and then Jokic is just wearing this fatigue. He is shooting 33% from the field over the last 3 games. That's 63 field goal attempts. He's shooting 33%. By comparison, he shot 50% against the Clippers in the entire series. And then regular season, 57.6%. So to be 33, so I lean under his points prop. Of course, he can always regress like we saw Tatum yesterday. But with Tatum, it was more in his head and he was just missing shots. It wasn't this blatant fatigue. And the pace in Denver. Now, I know there's altitude, but both games in Denver, the pace dropped by 10 possessions combined per game. And I think I've always said as a series goes on, teams in terms of the defense are more conditioned to facing the other team's offense. Because in the regular season, the most you'll face in consecutive games is a team twice, right? You'll do a home and home or back to back, and then you'll move on to the next game and things like that. But in a playoff series, this is the 5th straight time they're facing the same opponent. So you just get used to their offensive sets, you know, their mannerisms. Now, of course, you can do wrinkles and things like that. But for the most part, I've always felt scoring goes down. Now, the last game had 179 points. It was a quick turnaround from Friday night. to 36 hours later they play, and obviously that was a rock fight and it was gross. And I think it was a record for the postseason in terms of the total points scored in the first quarter. It won't be a repeat of that, but we don't need a repeat of that. We just need 221 points or fewer. So even if it goes 40 points higher than game 4, it's still going to go under. And maybe Denver team total's the better approach because they're the ones that are hitting the wall with the lack of depth. I just don't see a shootout. I know Thunder are missing open shots, but there's no guarantee they make them. And there's no guarantee that the Denver shots are going to all of a sudden go in because they started to make them a little bit.
Yeah, I wouldn't say if it's even a pushback, Doug. I think you make very valid points. I would say the only thing is games 1 and 2 when they were played in OKC, both games went over. So elevation might have a lot to do with it, to be honest with you. But you're right. Denver looks like a fatigued team. Nikola Jokic looks extra fatigued, right? Just carrying the entire team on his shoulders. Not only playing the team, but he's coaching the team as well. Let's be honest. So I mean, I agree with you there. The only thing I'm worried about is Denver's lack of defense. Just because they had one or two games of good defense doesn't mean they're a good defensive team. They've been really mediocre throughout the year. And you're right, OKC can go on these barrages, especially in the second half where they hit 4 or 5 threes in consecutive possessions. And that would scare me a little bit. So, I mean, you mentioned it really briefly. I would look at the Denver team total.
Yeah.
I would be more comfortable with that than the full game, just because I personally think OKC is going to play really well tonight anyways. So instead of kind of including them into my bet, I would just isolate Denver and their struggles on offense.
Bet Rivers did take a big wager on Nuggets plus 10.5 at minus 108, 9,800. Now the market's currently 10. And I will say, as Rudy Tomjanovich once said, you never underestimate the heart of a champion. Nuggets have won game 5 in each of their last 6 playoff series when tied 2-2. Wow. And if you're into more recent trends, Thunder have won the first half in each of their last 8 meetings with Denver. So the last 8 meetings, the Thunder have at least won outright the first half, not necessarily covered. But I do agree that if Denver's going to get 2 games, the remaining 3, they might punt on this game, recharge, try to win game 6 at home, and then go all in for game 7. So there is a concern that Thunder blow them out and they shoot open jumpers, and the Denver team total is probably the better way to play it. But man, I just think it's too many points. I think Denver's going to try to slow it down as well. They don't want to get into a track meet with them, and Jokic is just going to play the half court. And Jokic could rise up. I know he looks quote unquote out of shape and the last guy you pick in a pickup game in terms of his physical fitness, but he's in amazing shape. And I could see him turning things around. I do want to add a same game parlay if someone's up for some fun. I did this on Bet Rivers. It's plus 700. Okay. OKC money line, the under. Okay. Those are somewhat correlated. And then SGA under 31.5 points. So if it's a blowout and everyone's getting involved, I don't think SGA needs to go over for them to kind of blow them out and sit the fourth or things like that. So SGA under, and then Westbrook only knows one speed. So I would say over 10.5 points is a nice little prop. So those 4, again, you got a OKC money line, which is nothing, right? It's minus 500. It doesn't really do much, but it's plus 700 for those 4 things.
I like it. I mean, the way that you built out that SGP is correlation, right? All those bets are kind of correlated. You're expecting somewhat of a blowout. Pace is going to slow down in the fourth, and they're just going to kind of just let the time go out. Whereas Westbrook's only going to be the only player that's going to try. So that makes a lot of sense for me. I will look into Jalen Williams unders as well. I know he's been playing out of his mind. I mean, props to him. I think after game 1, I said maybe OKC needs to upgrade the number 2 option, but he's been playing really great. I just think that in a blowout, they're going to rest their starters. And I think OKC is just so much deeper than Denver that you can do a bunch of OKC unders on this, Doug, and build a SGP that way as well.
Right. Yeah. No, for sure. And then you can do some alt lines if you really think it's going to be a blowout. Before we get to the other playoff game, I want to remind everyone to sign up for the newsletter at bettingweeklystudios.com. We got a bunch of content there, weekly betting tips, and the entire newsletter. Go check it out, bettingweeklystudios.com. for a lot of good information and staying up to date with all of our shows. And again, this is a brand new show on the Bet Rivers Network Betting Weekly Fast Break every single weekday, 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central, and noon Pacific. And that comes on the heels of another brand new show that Albert and others have already appeared on. It's Betting Weekly Hardball. That's 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. Again, Monday through Friday, breaking down that day's card and everything else going on in those respective sports. So I want to switch gears to the Pacers and Cavs. You have the top seed down 3-1, and I don't think it's a fluke like maybe the Celtics-Knicks series is, given how that game has unfolded. Indies look like the better team, and yeah, maybe the ending of game 2 was fluky, but for the most part, the Pacers have looked like the better team. Cavs are still favored here. It's up from 7.5 to 8 at Bet Rivers. You're over under 231. So it's been a high scoring series, all things considered. And Donovan Mitchell did go to shoot around, did not play the second half in the last game, but that was a blowout. So that could have been precautionary. Albert, I know you have a play here. Talk to the people here.
The series, because going back to Indiana down 2-3 is going to be tough for them, especially of how they've had the deer in the headlights moment early in those games in Indiana. The crowd gets into it and they just look really, shaken. I'd say this: they've only won the 3-point battle once in the 4 games, and that was the game that they won, game 3. Game 1, they lost 19-9 in threes. Game 2 was tied 11-11. And this most previous game was 15-14, and that was a blowout, so it doesn't really matter. But I think the Cavs come out and shoot a lot better at home. I think you're going to see guys like Strus and Wade and those guys hit a couple threes to get the crowd going on their side. So I like the Cavs to cover the 7.5. And if you don't want to do the spread there, I'm pretty comfortable with the Cavs team total over 118.5. I think the pace is going to be really high tonight.
So you don't think the Cavs are dejected or anything like that? You don't think that must-win game, they're broken or anything like that?
There might be a little bit of that, to be honest. Like I said, like they look visibly shaken up in game 4, right?
They got out to us at halftime.
Yeah, I mean, they were down 40, and it wasn't like, I think they were down 15 after the first, and then they started the second quarter with Indy going on a 10-0 run. I mean, those are just onslaughts that you can't predict. And honestly, they're somewhat of mathematical anomalies as well. Indiana, to their credit, Doug mentioned it, they are playing really well. They are playing a lot more physical. They're known as this team that doesn't play defense. But since January 1st, they've had a really, really good defense because a lot of those guys have come back from Nesmith to Nembhard. They have size. So this is a good team. We all know they had the 4th best record since January 1st. I think the Cavs just show out tonight. I think we're going to see a game 6. And this is a game where Indiana is going to not really punt, but I will look into like Tyrese Halliburton, points, rebounds, assists, unders. I just have a feeling that's a blowout tonight, Doug.
It's fair. The line move certainly indicates that. It would not shock me. I will just say this. I have concern to a certain extent because when the Pacers were up 2-0 heading to Milwaukee for game 3, and that usually is the punt, and we see the home team get right, it wasn't until the second half. I think the Pacers were even leading at halftime where the Gary Trent Jr. went bananas and won that game. So this Indy team, because of Matherin, Nesmith, even McConnell, they have an edge to them that I haven't seen with certain teams. They think they're the better team. They can see the light at the end of the tunnel. They're up 3-1. I don't know what's left with Mitchell. I mean, it sounds like he's going to play, but I'm assuming he's not 100%. There's only so much Ty Jerome and some of these other guys can do, and they have the better coach. Indy's the better coach. I like Atkinson, and look, I had him 20-1 to win Coach of the Year, so that cash, and he's a good coach. But this is different. Carlisle's got way more playoff experience. He has a title on his hands, and frankly, he has a title as he played with the Celtics back in the day. Probably gleaned some wisdom there. He's a very, very knowledgeable coach, and this team goes 10 deep, and they can throw a lot of wrinkles at you. And I just love the aggression and they don't give it. They don't mess around. They don't care that you're supposed to win, that you're favored by 8. I just love their attitude that they bring.
Yeah, I get it. And I think I want to see more from Evan Mobley. I know he was hurt in game 2, so he's playing with nagging injuries. But 10-5, right, for someone with that size, athleticism, and talent, it's just not going to do it for me. I want to see a 25-15 type game. I think for Cleveland to get where they want to be, whether it's this year or 2-3 years down the road, Evan Mobley has to take that next step, and hopefully it starts tonight.
Responded. Even without Mitchell, they did cut it to 20 for what it's worth, and they played hard and ran through the tape, so to speak. Not every team would do that. We've seen the Warriors absolutely punt on games in the postseason and gone on to win the title. So the fact that they did that and played hard and all that, that says something, at least, that maybe they're not going to be complete doormats. I do have a prop for tonight, and I think it's a really, really good prop. But it's TJ McConnell over 6.5 combined rebounds and assists. He's a guy where you know you're going to get it from him. He's tenacious. He brings the noise. 6.5. He's been flying over this number the last few games. He could easily get 6 assists or rebounds. And so that I like that as a straight bet. But I will say this, and I've talked about this in the past, and this is really, I think, something people should do more often in the postseason. It's take advantage of the variance, lean into the potential chaos and the variance. And so when we have a potential blowout like we do in both games tonight, you can get the game leaders, the player to have the most points in the game or the most assists or rebounds. There's some great payouts. We talked about, what was it, game 2 or 3? Josh Hart of the Knicks was 100-1 to have the most points in that game, and he did. That cashed. We've seen Randall plus 650. I believe that was game 2, and that cashed. I think TJ McConnell at plus 1,700 at Bet Rivers to lead the game in assists is worth a little sprinkle. I'd say maybe 0.1x or something, 0.1 of your unit or something like that, because he can do that off the bench. The last time we saw this blowout, which was game 3, he and Max Strus each combined for a game high 7 assists. So it happens in this bizarre game. And who knows if Mitchell's healthy, and maybe they all get 5 assists and McConnell plays second half more than Halliburton. Who knows, right? But it's plus 1,700. It's worth a worthwhile flyer in my eyes.
I like that look a lot, and I think the way that you explained it is very, very sharp because you're looking at the variance of how these games are projected to finish. You can build a portfolio of bets, thinking the game is going to be close. In addition, right, concurrently, you can also build another second portfolio, thinking the game is going to be a blowout. So that's really smart because you're going to find angles, and it's all about whether you have 5, 7, or 10 bets, it's all about being profitable in the end, right? It's not about hitting that big one and trying to hit one per game. It's in my opinion, it's truly handicapping the game from multiple angles.
Yeah, and it's all about betting value, right? Like we talked about the same game parlay, things like that. Rather than complain that a team's up 3-1, you don't know what's going to happen, that's fine. Complain and lay off the side or total that's minus 110. Find that maybe flyer you think that could sort of repeat performance. And we definitely want you to get involved in the conversation. Let us know your thoughts on the YouTube channel in the comment section. Shane, B-ball at its finest. We appreciate that shout out, Shane. And also with Byron, who is totally fair. He's, when I was talking about OKC's won 8 straight halftime meetings with Denver, it says pricing reflects OKC's proclivity to lead at half versus Denver, not playable. Totally fair. That's why I said make sure it's not the point spread and the money line. What do you make of the Cleveland first half? A lot of people, given how Cleveland in games 1 and 2 had the big lead. Or sorry, no, not one. Wire to wire essentially was Indy, but game 2 and then blew it. The first half line is certainly skewed towards the Cavs. You're looking at a point spread of 5.5. So I guess for a 7.5, 8 point, that's a little on the high side. They're expecting that. That's one thing. And was it the Thunder game that had a really high total the first half or first half side? Excuse me. We see these stuff happen so it's 6.5. So that's about right for a 10-point favorite. So either way, any first half looks, maybe the Cavs, because they've been good in the first half, except for the last game.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I would lean the first half Cavs here just because it's such a big bounce back opportunity. I mean, losing that first half in game 4 by 40 is absurd. Um, and you know how I bet when it comes to these games anyways. If I like a side, I'm most likely going to be on the trifecta, which equals first quarter, first half, and full game. I think the Cavs are, like I said, I think the Cavs are going to come out and really force the issue in this one. This is kind of their kitchen sink game. I know it's supposed to be game 4, but if they win this one and they steal game 6, it's anybody's series. We haven't seen a 3-1 comeback in a while. It could be in this series. Who knows? The Cavs are still the number 1 seed for a reason. He's still the coach of the year for a reason. Evan Mobley is still the defensive player of the year for a reason. I would not count out the Cavs just yet, while also giving the Pacers credit.
Right. And you got to win 4 games. You don't have to win 3. Or it's not over after you win 3. So I guess I asked you this, and I think I kind of know the answer. With these teams that are down 3-1, Warriors, Cavs, Celtics, who comes back if one of them comes back to win the series?
If I had to choose one, it would be Cleveland.
Yeah.
And that's more because of my analysis on Cleveland as a team. Nothing against the Pacers, right? But I think Cleveland, out of the 3 teams you mentioned, especially now sans Jason Tatum, is the best team remaining. For the other series, Minnesota T-Wolves, I don't even think we get to Game 6. I don't think we even see Stephen Curry in that series. Minnesota should and will close it out. Boston, it's weird to me. I know everyone's talking about the Ewing theory today, but it's interesting because if this invigorates Jaylen Brown to play like Jaylen Brown last title run, then the Boston Celtics are right there, right? So we'll see. I mean, I think the Boston Celtics are dealing with injuries that we don't know about as well, and so it's hard to count out.
Porzingis too. I mean, that's a big factor here
Yeah,
too.
and the Knicks' fourth quarter execution is like flawless right now. So I would say the Cavs, just because all the things I mentioned with this was supposed to be the year. Didn't they have 3 15 winning streak, winning game streaks,
Right.
15 game win streaks? I mean, man, I can't see them going out 4-1. That'd be really bad.
I'll say this. Thunder are the odds-on favorite right now at Bet Rivers at -106 to win the title. The next 2 favorites are co-second favorites, excuse me, T-Wolves and Knicks at +500. If
Wow.
somehow the Thunder get bounced in this round of the conference finals, we could see the Minnesota-New York matchup in the NBA finals with the whole Randall and Karl Anthony Towns trade. And here they come and meet in the finals to decide, who ultimately won the trade. I think that's fun in that regard. Byron Murrell chiming in has an interesting question about this. And I think it's a good point. We talked about leading into variance, leaning into the chaos, things like that. Well, there's alternate lines. So he's like, what do you think about taking OKC to win between 6 and 10 or 11 at 15 at +360, +480 instead of laying the freight? Split the wager and go. That served him well in Super Bowl wagering. So I don't know about, I forget what the term is, just like that exact window. I haven't really done that ever. I'd rather just lay an alt line. I know a friend of mine did that for game 3 with the Celtics and Knicks, laid 14. And he says they're not going to blow another 20-point lead in a must-win game in terms of Celtics and Knicks. So for this game tonight, Cavs, I could see getting involved in an alt line. We saw a blowout in game 3. It was headed that way in game 2. But remember, Indy was playing without those three key guys. Cleveland was. Any alt line or any sort of different wrinkle you could throw here?
It's been a very interesting playoffs, and we're only in the second round, but there's been how would I put this? There's been a lot more close games than in previous postseasons. And that to me has been surprising, especially in the first and second round. You guys, Doug, usually first round is basically just a continuation of the regular season. It's not even that intense. You see a bunch of blowouts, but it's been a phenomenal postseason this year. I don't know if that's going to continue, to be honest. So, like, to answer your question, alt lines would be like to make the spread even larger, right? So if I like Cavs 7.5 or 8 tonight, like I would love to see what the value is at 12.5, 13.5, just to make it, not be so competitive. I just feel like we're gonna get a run, Doug, of 3 or 4 games where 3 or 4 nights where it's gonna be a bunch of blowouts, and that's
You can just do
not
that
enough.
sliding scale,
Yeah,
and
that's
then
not enough for me.
and the numbers will adjust. Yeah, I wouldn't get involved in that regard. I mean, I also think there's a chance Indiana wins, so who knows what transpires. I know Bet Rivers took a big bet on the over, 15 large on over 230 and a half at plus 102. For what it's worth, Cavaliers last 6 home games have all gone over the total. I know you lean to the over in the team total. You think the
Mhm.
Cavs will get their points. 3 of the first 4 games in this series have gone over. Indy is shooting in the entire playoffs, 9 games. They are shooting 50-40, not 90 from the free throw line, but 50 from the field and 40% from the 3-point line. They've been lights out. They certainly were lights out in game 4 in the last game, but I wouldn't bet under. I know that. So I don't know if I'd bet 15 large on the over, but I would not bet over in this game. But the market has moved a little bit to the over here.
Yeah, it's over or nothing for me. I mean, I mentioned this earlier, but the Cavs have only hit 9, 11, 14, and 14 threes in their first 4 games. That's well below their season averages. And it's not like Indiana is playing them not to shoot the three, right? They're not defending the three. The Cavs are just missing a lot of these. I mean, I think Donovan Mitchell went one game where he's 1 for 10. I think he had a 48-point game where he only hit 1 3. So a lot of this is just the Cavs missing shots, and they're coming back home where historically that's where the role players, the bench players start playing a lot better. And so I definitely can see the over here. And if I'm on the team total over, it makes sense that the full game over should hit as well.
Byron saying that's a huge risk with Mitchell, not 100% doesn't make sense for the minus 12 plus 155. I agree, but I do agree with Albert, what you're saying with the variance. It is really tough for that variance not to, and we saw what happened with the Celtics 3-point shooting game 3. It just was bound to sort of start. They went 50% from 3. Now, I want to give Indy's defense credit. Some of it's just bad offense at times
Yeah.
with Cleveland. I'm really fascinated to see how it all unfolds tonight. Albert, I know you're going to be on the show later in the week on Thursday. We're going to talk some more NBA and also WNBA with the season getting going Friday. Have you done much of your research for the upcoming season?
I have, man. I love the WNBA. The storylines are amazing. The teams are all about building super teams. The quality of basketball, and no offense here, like it's not as great as, if you're watching the NBA and you switch to a WNBA game, you're gonna see a drop off. But in terms of drama, in terms of storylines, in terms of Caitlin Clark, like there's just so many things about this league that I love. And from a betting standpoint, and Doug has known this for several years now, the lines are just a little bit softer than the NFL and NBA and Major League Baseball. So a lot of good opportunities to make money.
Thing. You can watch the NBA and watch the WNBA, right? To your point, there is obviously a drop of it, but it's different quality of basketball. It's more half court sets and movement using the whole. It's not as 3-point heavy, but I also just like watching hoops in the summer, and it's an opportunity to do that throughout the summer. But I do think it's a soft market. There are opportunities here. I found a lot of futures. I have a Caitlin Clark related bet that I really, really like. I also think Indy could win. Sorry, finish with the most wins this season. They are loaded. They made a bunch of offseason moves. I think they are legit. Obviously, there's fan interest and thus betting interest in the Fever because of Caitlin Clark, but I actually think they're a legitimate title threat. And frankly, she's a legitimate MVP candidate. That's why she's the betting favorite right now. Opened as the second favorite, but she's the betting favorite now, and it's shaping up to be a great season. The talent level, the quality of play has gone up, has increased exponentially over the years. So I'm really excited for the upcoming season. But we'll break that down on Thursday. Just want to let everyone know that the season officially starts on Friday with a few games. I believe the Clark and the Fever's first game is Friday, but I guess it's against Angel Reese in the Sky. But it's a big slate Friday and Saturday all weekend. National television should be great. We'll have a futures discussion on Thursday with Albert, and also on Friday as well with Wes Reynolds, who does a great job handicapping the WNBA. So we are fans of the NBA and the W as well. And we'll look ahead to the upcoming season at the end of this week. Again, Betting Weekly Fast Break every single weekday, Monday through Friday. That is 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. And that's comes after we just did Betting Weekly Hardball, 2 p.m. Eastern. Again, Monday through Friday, breaking down the baseball slate. Also looking at some futures. Albert's been on that. We have some other professional handicappers and bettors. So a lot of good content there. Adam the Bull's been hosting the last couple days. Did 3 days last week. He's been great to work with. Now he's based in Cleveland where the Cavs are unraveling. So it's been kind of fun to get his opinion and his reaction to what he's experiencing hosting shows and stuff with the Cavs meltdown. But Albert, to your point, the Cavs are not done just yet. So let's recap our best bets from today. I have a few. You have one, Albert. You're on the Cavs minus the 8 now at Bet Rivers.
Yep. I like the Cavs and a strong lean to Isaiah Hartenstein over rebounds and assists.
Okay, so in terms of the Cavs game, I only have McConnell over 6.5 rebounds plus assists. I do like that a lot. It's a half unit play for me, and then 1/10 of a unit. So 0.1x on McConnell at plus 1,700 to be the leader in assists for just this game 5. And then the other game, I'm taking the under 221.5 for a full unit. I really like Denver and OKC going under 221.5. The market moving against me does concern me, but I want to stick to my guns. And then I have another small wager, 0.2x, same game parlay, where I will use OKC money line just in case Denver hangs around and mucks it up. I'll just go money line, not going to lay the 10 in that regard. And I'm also do the under 221.5 as well. And then correlated props. I'm going to do SGA under 31.5 points and Russell Westbrook over 10.5 points. I think those are all correlated to the under and the OKC money line, and it pays plus 700. So that's a fun option over there at the Bet Rivers site and app. And just a reminder, once again, join the newsletter, the bettingweeklystudios.com for weekly betting tips and all the other information on the entire newsletter. We appreciate everyone getting involved. And you do get involved in the conversation, both for this show and Betting Weekly Hardball. The real Brendan King chiming in. Thanks, gents. Love the prop pick. So good on Brendan to give the shout out. We appreciate the support and the follow there. And, it's a brand new show. So we want everyone to get involved, to follow us on our socials as well, and all under the Bet Rivers Network and under the Betting Weekly umbrella. Albert, appreciate your insight. I know the audience does as well. And we'll see you back here Thursday. We'll have shows all week. We have Chris Massaro in tomorrow, but really looking forward to the WNBA analysis later in the week. And obviously Wes is going to join on Friday. So for Albert Nguyen, I'm Doug Kezirian. We'll see you back here on Betting Weekly Fast Break, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific.